Hi, this is Daniela, and welcome to Bestie Life, the podcast, where we help you stop burnout now. If you're tired of running on empty, juggling all the things, and wondering when your life is supposed to feel better, you're in the right place. This show is your go-to space for real talk and practical strategies to help you protect your energy, create balance, and actually enjoy the life you're working so hard for. You'll get a mix of solo episodes and honest conversations with guests. My goal is to help you feel less alone, more empowered, and way more in control of your time and energy and well-being. So let's get into it. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I'm excited for you to meet Lani Buess. She's a self-concept coach and works in the area of identifying beliefs and ideas that we have about ourselves and really, focusing in on that area because so many times people work on the behaviors, whether it's quitting smoking, losing weight, etc. But changing behavior doesn't always change the way you think about yourself. And I love this because I always talk about the fact that when you think differently, you feel differently. And when you feel differently, you act differently. And so many times everybody does just jump to the action without really looking at the thoughts behind this. And I know, you relate because you feel like this was kind of the missing gap in the personal development space and wanted to address this and things like that, because she believes that when you change who you believe yourself to be, the behaviors are automatically going to fall into line. So I'm so excited for this conversation. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Daniela.
So can you share a little bit more about your own story about how you kind of came into this space and everything?
Yeah. So I've been in the coaching arena, I would say a decade now. But I didn't start there. So I was a journalist. I was a journalist for over a decade. I did some, I bopped around a little bit in different careers, but I was somebody that always had really intense social anxiety growing up, like debilitating social anxiety. I would bail out of things left and right, even as a kid. Wouldn't go to sleepovers, wouldn't do any of those things. Wouldn't go to happy hours with friends, like if they were going like work events and things like that. So it really was like first started my own personal journey of like, how do I deal with anxiety, or what does that even mean? And as I started getting into the personal development field, I started, getting into meditation, which led me to hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Which also led me to this thing called neuro-linguistic programming. So it's similar. I think of it just very similar to hypnosis in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I was basically wanting to know, like, unlock my own unconscious patterns and figure out what was going on. So it was literally the anxiety thing. And I was somebody who would white knuckle my way through a lot of uncomfortable experiences. And then I figured there had to be a different way to do this
Yeah.
other than doing this, other than putting me as a journalist or doing different things in my career to alleviate that anxiety. So that's when I started getting into like hypnosis, meditation, things that would help me basically retrain my brain to do this differently. And from there, I started off working a lot in the areas of anxiety as a coach and trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But now I pivoted more to identity work because as you mentioned, I felt like this was a missing gap. And it for me personally, I was someone who related to being a socially anxious person,
Mm-hmm.
and I had tools to like help the anxiety, but I still thought of myself that way. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
how do I change how I think about myself?
Yeah.
So,
Because I
yeah,
think that's so huge.
yeah,
I've always kind of thought of myself as shy and quiet, even though I have so many things I want to say. And I realize a lot of times I'm the one who pulls back and shrinks into the corner. Nobody puts me there. I intentionally do that. I think because, like you said, that's the story and the narrative that I've told myself for so long.
yeah, yeah. And similarly, like I was like, I'm shy, I'm socially anxious, I'm this, I'm that. And it's all based on our life experiences. Like
Mhm.
those thoughts, those labels we give ourselves are based on things that have happened in our lives. But for me, it was like, well, how do I change that way? How do I realize that my behaviors and my identity are actually two different things? I think
Yeah.
I think innately or intellectually we know that. We say, okay, behavior and identity aren't the same, but we don't actually know that feel have that feeling oftentimes. So I have
Right.
to detach the two. and
Well,
really
and I
have that
think
knowledge.
sometimes too, the behavior on the outside doesn't always match that identity, even that we tell ourselves, like I'm on these podcasts, I do speaking and all these other things. And so people assume I'm very outgoing, I'm extroverted, which is so not the case, even getting over some of that shyness and things like that, and getting comfortable speaking my voice. So can you talk a little bit more about how to really pull apart your identity from your behavior and how to keep them separate? Because I think other times when people make assumptions, we just kind of buy into them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And I think that's the question most people want to know. Like, how do we do that? And I think honestly, how we start decoupling, I would say, is that I think a lot of us relate to identity, like relate to things we do. Like, oh, I do
Yeah.
this or do that. I do this. How many people are like, if you think about the sports arena, I'm a footballer, I'm
Yeah.
a, whatever, athlete, because they've done this for so long. And then when something happens in that arena, start losing a sense of self, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it is actually me helping people remember what they forgot about themselves. That's basically what I
Yeah.
call it. And going, okay, I work in the arena of qualities. So for instance, it's not an identity in a sense. So if you say, hey, I'm a kind person, or I want to be a kind person, say for
Mm-hmm.
that. Say for instance, somebody is like, I want to be a kind person, but I think I'm critical or judgmental or this or that. Then I go, okay, that is a quality that we can work on. The difference with that is that we can start saying the good thing about qualities and like what we call like mid-range qualities or
Mm-hmm.
areas of our lives is that we can now go, okay, just say you want to be a kind person. What
Mm-hmm.
areas of your life have you been? Right. So
Yeah.
we start going of noticing the different contexts, the areas of our lives. We start accessing a lot of memories. The thing with qualities and identity work is continuity.
Mm-hmm.
In what way or shape or form have you been either in your past, your present, and perceive yourself to be in the future? So it's a lot of accessing memories. And not only that, the work I do, we also talk about structure. So for instance, say there's something you really like about yourself and that you know you are, right? Some people might say I'm a creative or I'm intelligent or I'm curious. We all map that in a certain way. We actually map certainty and something we like about ourselves and that we feel good about. And
Huh.
when I say we map it, there's a structure to that. So when you access memories, we think that they're just locked in our head, but they're actually somewhere in our spatial awareness. We are picturing our memories. We might have pictures. Some of us have sounds. Sounds have locations. So what I do is I structure someone's certainty about a quality
Mm.
I like and feel certain about. And then I figure out the different qualities that they don't relate to that's mapping completely different.
Okay.
And then you also actually do the sort of what I call the inner work. You also go, okay, there's a lot of memories where you felt you weren't this quality. Let's unpack that. Let's look at those and
Mm-hmm.
examine them more deeply. And notice like, and basically it's how I think about this is my work is very much going, what are your values? And let's not just align them. Let's not just say like, I want to be kind or I want to be productive. I want to be consistent. I want to be successful. But how can we make them components of your identity?
Okay.
And that's sort of the work I do is like, let's not just like say, I want to align to these values, but let's make them components of your identity. And we do that a little bit with figuring out how you structure something that you know you're certain about and kind of unpacking all those memories there.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense. And even as you were talking, thinking about, like you said, maybe a time you were kind, does it then relate to you can associate it with certain smells, certain sounds, like to be able to piece those pieces back together and reinforce them almost so that you buy into that kindness a little bit more often by reinforcing the memories of when you were?
Well, it's a bit of both. So if, say for instance, if we're talking about structuring how you structure your subjective reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that say you're like, okay, I'm kind, right? And if it's mapping in the way you like certainty or you think of certainty, the quality that you like about yourself, then perfect. But if it isn't, then it's a lot about like what we call mapping across, moving your positive memories
Mm-hmm.
of kindness to the place of certainty, but then also looking at the times I'm not kind and going, what's happening there?
Okay.
So really exploring like your behavior. And even it's not basically condoning behavior you didn't like, but it's going, hey, there's some positive intention behind your acting a certain way. You
Mm.
acting maybe not in kindness, right? Or acting unkind.
Yeah.
There's probably some intention there, positive intention. It might be like, there's an argument you had with someone, but the argument is because you just want to be heard or you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to really deeply connect to someone. So part of us finding what we say are counterexamples to kindness, times you're not kind, is going, what's happening there? Going,
Okay.
what's the positive intention behind that behavior? And going, if I were to do this again, how can I do this more resourcefully?
Mm-hmm.
And kind
Okay.
of kind of reimagining what that would look like.
Right. Now, how does that tie into, or if it does at all, into imposter syndrome? Because I know that's a
Mm.
phenomenon people talk a lot about, especially high achieving people, people in leadership roles. You get to certain levels and you
Yeah.
start to doubt yourself and you no longer kind of believe the things you know to be true about yourself. So is that connected?
Yeah, great question. So how I think about this is very similarly. So oftentimes when I talk to people who have imposter syndrome, they're basically saying, I'm not capable,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know if I'm as successful as I want to be, or I'm not feeling good enough. There's self-worth issues. There's not feeling good enough, all those things, second guessing myself, not trusting myself. So
Mm-hmm.
since identity work is all in the area for me, qualities, going, okay, you don't trust yourself? Great, we can work on trusting yourself more. That's a
Mm-hmm.
quality that's ambiguous for you, maybe. And we can and we can dig into those times where you're not trusting yourself. Maybe you made decisions that you didn't like, or you second guessed yourself, and we basically start unpacking. What do I think about how I do this is somebody gives me a goal, right? And so what I do is going, let me figure out the values behind that goal, right? I have
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome. I don't want it. So what would look like instead? Well, I would be knowing I'm capable, maybe.
Yeah.
Capability and competency always come in there. Confidence comes in there sometimes, but I unpack it with them. Trust is a big thing for imposter syndrome. Going, well, sometimes I don't trust myself. I'm second guessing myself. I'm needing a lot of external validation because I'm not sure about
Yeah.
what decision I'm making here. So basically, that's what I'm working in, our area of qualities. And then if somebody feels ambiguous about it, or they're saying, I don't even possess that quality, I don't think I'm capable, I don't think I'm competent, I don't think I trust all these things, then I go, okay, those are areas of qualities that we can transform. So I'm working in the area of qualities,
Mm-hmm.
basically helping people align with their values in a way that becomes a part of their identity. So what ends up happening is those people are saying, I don't feel good enough, I'm not worthy. We're noticing, where are you doing that and what areas, what qualities are a stumbling block for you, and
Mm-hmm.
unpacking that. So for instance, like I've worked with a lot of women in
Yeah.
the corporate arena who are having these issues, and it might come up differently for some. For some people, is thinking they're not smart enough. I worked with a woman who was like, people tell me I'm smart, but it sort of goes in one ear and out the other. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I not think that I am? And so it was a lot of really discovering all her accomplishments that she was taking for granted, and digging into those times when she felt like she wasn't smart, and kind of reimagining those and making her more resourceful if similar situations were to come happen again. So it's a lot, and it's very different for everyone. It
Yeah.
and so basically that's what I'm doing. Now, traditionally, imposter syndrome work is like a competency issue of feeling someone's not capable. A lot of people use that kind of as a loose label now, and it can be very individual things for each person. It could be trust issues, could be
Mm-hmm.
smart, it could be capability, love. Some people just don't love themselves enough to realize, oh yeah, I am capable of all these things. So it's really different for each person.
As you were talking, I was thinking of a friend of mine. She's in a very male dominated field. She's like a partner in a firm, and she's like one of the few female partners. And so she doesn't always see herself as having the same power and influence, I think, because she compares herself against her male counterparts. Do you see that difference show up as well, where it's not that we're not competent, we're not smart enough and all these things, but because we're comparing it against a male standard versus us versus female? And I'm so sorry for my male listeners, but
Yeah.
like just to put it out there.
No, yeah. And as you were talking, it's like, oh, I was starting to think about other clients that I had who are like, I feel like I have to be a different person in the male sphere
Mm-hmm.
in the corporations because, I also have many women are like, I'm not as authentic as I would actually be in my personal life when I'm in the work arena, because it's like I have to be a different person. So it is a bit of comparison,
Mm-hmm.
and is also falls into, I think, people recognizing that there's a values conflict because they're like, I'm not as authentic as I want to be in this space, in this sphere, because I'm having to deal with certain male personalities. Or so yes, most definitely. And that's something, and I think comparison game is like the most difficult because that's what we're all doing. We're either comparing ourselves to somebody else, and that's always a dangerous space to be in because either that's always going to make you feel bad when you
Yeah.
compare yourself to somebody else because either you're gonna be like, wow, they're doing better than me, or I'm doing better than them. But that means either way, we can fall off the pedestal in some way and feel bad in some arena by doing that. So most
Mhm.
definitely, and that happens a lot again, as you're mentioning, because I think I mostly work more women, or mostly women admit that they have
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. Men also have it, but they don't admit it as freely and openly. But yeah, that what you're saying is totally a situation that happens quite often with women in the workspace.
Okay. Now, you've also said in the past, confidence is a scam. Can you talk more about, what nobody tells you about really feeling secure and where that confidence truly comes from?
Yeah. I say that because I think we forget that confidence isn't a feeling. We
Yeah.
want it to be a feeling. We go, oh, I just want to feel better. I want to be more confident. But confidence really is doing actions enough where you feel confident or competent. So it's basically the end result of taking action.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
and if you think about that, we're confident in a lot of different areas. We're confident enough to like walk across the street and not get hit by a car. Like we've done things enough that that is confidence in some ways. Now, I think we mistakenly think confidence is that. I think a lot of people think it's like this super air that we
Yeah.
put on. It's a little bit of an arrogance that like, and that is the totally total opposite of what I think confidence is. Confidence is really quiet.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to you don't have to prove anything when you're confident. You're kind of just innately doing something automatically because you've done it so much. It is competency. It's taking enough actions um, that the end result is that you feel confident, which is really confidence equals competence.
Yeah.
And I think too many people think this confidence thing is that, "Oh, I just want to be confident. I just want to be confident. I want to feel confident." I go, well, then, and also that means really different things to different people, especially my line of work. When I ask people, okay, what does your confidence look like? I've had people say, but like, I just want to be more spontaneous, which was an answer I had not thought
Huh.
that somebody would say. Other,
Yeah.
other people have been like, oh, I just want to be like more assertive and like
Hmm.
speak up for myself. Or other people have said like, I just want to be like more outgoing and not like have the shyness. So I think it's really that word. Also, again, confidence happens oftentimes when we're just aligning with what we value and who we are as a person. If you value, for instance, we'll say that a kindness again, the value. If you value
Yeah.
kindness and you know you're kind because you speak kindly, you act kindly, um, you behave in that way, then you're going to be confident that you're a kind person. It's the end result. And I think oftentimes people confuse that. They think it's a
Mhm.
feeling that you need to like acquire. And we don't want to be confident. Like if we've never done something before, I hope we're not confident. Like
Yeah.
because that is a trap. We're gonna, it's that's where narcissism comes in a little bit. If you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing, I've never done it before, but now you're putting yourself and maybe potentially others in some really dangerous situation, I think can be a trap. So, we want to be clumsily learning and you don't
Right.
want to just be confident. I think people are jumping to the end game quite often.
Yeah, no, I truly believe confidence comes from action. They say don't wait till you're confident to do stuff, just do it, and then you'll become confident. As I was listening to, how much does validation play into that, though, as well? Because you can do something over and over again or say something over and over, but if it doesn't get validated, how does that affect confidence?
Yeah, I think that as people, I think we need both types of validation. I mean, our
Hmm.
own internal validation and also external, right?
Hmm.
I think also that is a bit, if you have one or the other, I think a lot of people want the external
Yeah.
and the trap becomes you don't have your own internal reference to go, hey, how do I know that I'm confident? Can I think about those areas? Can I accept the areas where I've succeeded and things like that. I think we need a bit of both internal reference and external reference of those types of validation because we're people. We're going to need that external. The trap becomes when we're doing one or the other.
Right.
And I think that's the trap. And I think of that in this way. There's a lot of people. Look, especially with when I work with qualities, I also work a lot in areas of love and people wanting relationships. And that's a big trap when we think about love. I'll ask people, are you loving? They'll be like, yeah. I'll be like, are you lovable? And people will be like, what do you mean? And the first thing people do when they think of times where they know they're lovable is they think of all the people who said they loved them, right? Or who said, I love you. But then I say, okay, where's your internal reference of knowing that you're lovable? And they're like, I don't have any. I just have all these people telling me that. I go, then if you want an internal reference, I go, before someone tells you that, put the flashlight on you, who you're being for someone to tell you that. And there's your internal reference. So we need a bit of both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you're talking as well, to kind of bring this back as well to our self-care and all those kind of things, and your mindset always ties into how we're feeling. One area that I love to focus on is gratitude, because I think it's an underutilized form of self-care, but I also think gratitude ties into how we think about ourselves as well as events and everybody else. Not only to share a little bit of how they're connected, but also if you can share personally, like what are some things that you would say you're the most grateful for?
Gosh, so many things. I mean, I have an amazing family. I have amazing friends who are like family, especially since a lot of my family are on a different coast now. A lot of my friends have become family. And I do what I love. I'm grateful for the job I have. I got laid off from my day job that was not this in May. So now I'm basically coaching full time. And I'm basically doing what I want to do. It could be mentally exhausting at times, as you know. But yeah, I am grateful for being able to do what I do for a living at this point. So there's a lot of things. And I agree with you. I think when you're grateful, it kind of just all the good things in your life, just what you appreciate appreciates, right? What they say.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it reinforces, I think, as well, like you said, that internal validation of not only that you are a good person or you have good things in your world, but that you focus and align with them in a value standpoint. So how can people find you? How can they dive into this work with you and help improve their own feelings about themselves?
Yeah, they can find me on my website, Uplevel with Lani, it's LANI.com. People can just email me, Lani at uplevelwithlani.com. And I'm also on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Lani Buess, Instagram, Uplevel with Lani. I'm there. I'm everywhere in those different areas, yeah.
Awesome. And all those links will be live in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Lani, for spelling some of this out and helping to break it down. And hopefully if you're listening today, to help you start to realign with some of those values and feelings and beliefs in yourself. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniela. And if your listeners are interested, I also have a free resource for them if they want.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, please share.
All right. Yeah, give you the link for it so you have it. But thank you so much for this time and the space. This was fun for me. So thank you so much, Daniela.
This was great. Thank you.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you got something out of this episode that really made you feel seen, supported, or just a little bit more grounded. If you have any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're up for it, please leave me a 5-star review. That will help more people find the show and join this community. I'll leave you with 2 of my favorite quotes. Alone we may be strong, but together we're stronger. And when we support each other, incredible things happen. So let's keep showing up for ourselves and each other, and maybe even have some fun while we're at it. I'll talk to you soon.